Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to this webinar. We'll just let a few more people in and we'll kick off in a few seconds. Amelia, are you ready to share slides? There we go. Thanks, everyone. We've had a few last-minute Teams updates by the looks of it, so hopefully from here on will be smooth. But anyway, a warm welcome, everyone. My name is Monique Isenheim. I'm the head of market development at the ISC, and really excited to have you joining us for this webinar on sustainable water infrastructure. Before we kick off, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past and present. Now, we know that water is one of our most precious and at-risk resources, especially in Australia. And so climate change, urbanization, and aging infrastructure all place immense pressures on the water systems. And with that, infrastructure really has an important role to play, not just in delivering reliable water supplies, but also in protecting the ecosystems and the communities that depend on them. And with that, sustainability in water infrastructure is not just a nice to have, but it's really fundamental to long-term resilience, affordability, and livability. And that's why we're really excited about today's webinar. As you know, an important part of what we're doing is really enabling knowledge sharing and showcasing some great projects that hopefully inspire every one of you to attend this. With today's focus on water, it's really great to be hearing about two very different and very inspiring projects that have embraced sustainability from the ground up. And they've both been using the IS Essentials tool as pilot projects, which is really great. So we're really happy to see more projects coming out of that. So they are not mega projects, but they are showcasing that infrastructure doesn't have to be big to be brilliant. So they've taken a really leading role here. And if you're not aware, the IS Essentials ratings tool is our new design and as-built rating for projects under $100 million in capital value. So it's designed to make the sustainable best practices available to smaller projects, which typically is what we see in water. And so whether you're managing small regional upgrades like our first projects or installing brand new system in an urban environment, it's really there to help. So we hope that today's webinar will spark some ideas and collaboration and momentum. And because we know that if we share the knowledge and we lift up the innovators, then we can have a bigger impact together. So we will hear about two great projects. And after that, next slide, please. After that, we will have some time for Q&A. So once a question pops to mind, feel free to put it in the Q&A and we'll pick up on it in the end. So with that said, I'm really looking forward to hearing from our first speaker, Anita Kilibada, who's specialist in sustainable infrastructure at Water Corp, and will talk to us about a remote project with some really great examples for community consultation and benefit. So thank you, Anita, and over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Monique, for the warm welcome and for the invitation to speak on today's webinar. So my name is Anita. I'm a specialist in sustainable infrastructure at Water Corporation in Western Australia. I've had the privilege of working on the Jardigan Lombardina water treatment upgrade project, where I was involved in leading the IS Essentials rating. I'm really excited to share this case study with you all, and I hope it provides some valuable insights on how you can integrate sustainable outcomes on your projects. Next slide, please, Amelia. So before I begin, I just wanted to give some history on the two Aboriginal communities that this project is impacting. So the Jardigan Aboriginal community and the Lombardina Aboriginal communities exist adjacent to each other, as you can see from this map. And together, these two communities have a combined population of almost 400 people. So prior to 1985, this was just one Aboriginal community called the Lombardina Catholic Mission. But in the 1980s, when the federal government instigated the Homeland Movement, which saw Aboriginal people move from centralised, larger communities back to their traditional lands, the older people living around the Lombardina Catholic Mission decided they wanted to have their own community. So in 1985, the community of Jardigan started. So whilst these communities are adjacent to each other, they each have their own independent corporations, customs, and bylaws. Next slide, please, Amelia. So with this background, I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the lands where this project is taking place, the Jardigan community and the Lombardina community of the Bardi and Jawi people, and also extend this out to the traditional owners of the lands I am privileged to be meeting you on today, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and recognise their rich and continuing connection to land and water. Next slide, please. So this slide just outlines some of the key themes I'll be covering off in my presentation. So I'll start with giving a brief overview of Water Corporation and the background of the project, and then I'll go through the application of the ICE Essentials and the sustainability outcomes that we've achieved so far on this project. Thanks. So Water Corporation is an integrated water utility providing water, wastewater and drainage services across Western Australia. So we supply to over 1.2 million properties throughout the state, and based on our assets replacement value, we manage over $50 billion worth of assets, which service an area covering more than 2.6 million square kilometres. So this makes us one of the largest water utilities in the world in terms of the geographical area that we service. And whilst this comes with its own unique challenges, with the scope that we cover across Western Australia, we also recognise that we are a critical enabler of delivering sustainable infrastructure to the communities that we serve. Next slide, please. So the next few slides will give an overview of the project, which is located in the Kimberley region of Western Australia. Next, please. So the Kimberley region is the part coloured dark blue in the top part of this image. And if you can, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a small text that says Dampier Peninsula, and that is where this project is located. So to give you a sense of how regional this project actually is, if you were to drive from Perth City in the grey section to the Dampier Peninsula, it would take you approximately 25 hours to drive. And so for some background on why this project is taking place, currently it's recognised that 70% of WA Aboriginal communities are currently not connected to a regulated water service. So in 2023, the West Australian Government transferred responsibility for water services in 137 Aboriginal communities from the Department of Communities to Water Corporation. So as part of this transfer, the existing water infrastructure assets will be upgraded to ensure the same level of service and reliability for all across the state of Western Australia. The Jardigan Lombardina Water Treatment Upgrade Project is one of the first projects to be delivered as part of this program of work. The plant is currently being operated and maintained by the Kimberley Regional Service Providers, who service 101 communities in the Kimberley region. Next slide, please. So for this project, the scope of work includes creating 3 new bores, a water treatment area, and a potable water storage tank, which will connect to existing community tanks in Jardigan and Lombardina. The CapEx is currently valued at 37 million. And for this upgrade, the project team consists of ourselves, so Water Corporation as the asset owners, GHD as the designers, and the Kimberley Regional Service Providers who will continue to operate and maintain the asset once it's upgraded. This project has recently been awarded a Bronze Design Award and will be undertaking construction later this year. Next slide, please. Go next again. Thanks, Amelia. Perfect. So in terms of the IS credit delivery approach, we adopted a hybrid approach where we led some of the credits ourselves, while our design consultants, GHD, led the others. So just next, Amelia, there should be an animation that comes up. Perfect. The credits in this box were the credits the GHD led, and these were chosen largely based on their technical expertise. This hybrid delivery approach worked well for us, particularly as we were leading the governance credits, and this allowed us to build up our own internal capabilities, develop documentation, and also gain a deeper understanding of the rating scheme and how the credits relate to each other. Next. So in terms of the other key activities required for an IS rating, we collaborated with GHD and our internal team on the materiality assessment, but then we took the lead on compiling the evidence and submitting that to ISC. GHD completed the base case proposal forms, and that's just because they were doing all the credits that required a base case and the modelling associated with that. And then we populated all the credit summary forms for all the credits and submitted the design submission for both round 2 and round 1 and round 2, sorry. Next slide, please. So the next few slides, I'll just discuss some of the sustainability initiatives on this project. Thanks, Amelia. So this project took an engagement-led design approach, recognising that early engagement was essential to enable First Nations voices to influence the project design. So this was achieved by ensuring the design phase progressed in parallel with community engagement, where the project team shared concept designs with the Djardijan and Lombardina communities to seek their input early in the design phase and then adapt the design accordingly. As an example of this, the project team walked the proposed Djardijan Borefield access track with the traditional owners, which resulted in many culturally significant trees being identified and the project team then realigning the access track. Next slide. So community initiatives are a key component of the Aboriginal Community Water Services Program delivery, where it was recognised that we need to deliver more than just upgraded assets to the communities we are impacting. So if we have project managers and plant mobilised to site for construction, then how can we also use this for broader community benefit? And this concept aligned really well to the IS Essentials Leaving a Lasting Legacy credit, where the intent is to deliver initiatives that contribute pronounced and long-lasting societal or environmental outcomes. So consultation with the Djardijan Aboriginal Corporation Board identified an opportunity to upgrade a greenhouse nursery for the community to do their own seed banking and grow healthy produce. This was a community identified need due to the prevalence of diabetes amongst community members and the desire and strong focus from the Djardijan Aboriginal Corporation to have a healthier community. The greenhouse nursery was constructed late in 2023, and then it was handed back to the Djardijan Aboriginal Corporation, who are responsible for operating and maintaining the nursery. The nursery is now contained in their strategic action plan, with actions around propagation of plants and vegetables for the community, and for the nursery to continue to be operated as a social enterprise, with select items being sold for profit, which will help purchase seeds and the upkeep of the nursery going forward. Next slide, please. So the project team also engaged early with the current asset operators, the Kimberley Regional Service Providers, to ensure that the water treatment plant was designed with their operational needs in mind. So to maintain the asset during operations, the calcite media used in the water treatment process required refilling of the hopper every 2 weeks. So given the remote location and the long travel distances, the team identified an opportunity to double the hopper's holding capacity, allowing it to store more calcite. This change reduced the frequency of site visits from fortnightly to monthly, which effectively halved the number of trips required by the operator each year. So as a result, operational emissions from travel were reduced by 50%. And importantly, this also improved safety by reducing the frequency of travel on these remote roads. Next slide, please. So when it came to powering the plant, we identified an opportunity to move from a traditional microgrid connection powered by a diesel generator. So instead, we implemented a solar panel and battery system as a primary energy source, with a diesel generator retained solely for contingency purposes. By applying the IS rating framework, we're able to model a 99% reduction in operational greenhouse gas emissions associated with powering the plant. This outcome strongly aligned with our corporate goal of being a net zero water utility by 2035 and demonstrated the value of integrating sustainability into early project design. Next slide, please. You can go next again, thanks. So heritage was a very high material topic to this project due to its location and stakeholder priorities. And whilst we originally had included this credit in our rating pathway, it was not verified in design. The main reason for that was because the heritage assessment was conducted prior to us registering the project for an IS rating. And so it wasn't prescribed to the consultant that the heritage assessment had to be completed in accordance with the Bureau Charter Practice Notes. So the Bureau Charter Practice Notes are a document that outlines best practice principles and procedures to be followed when you're undertaking a heritage assessment. So, and this was like a key component of this credit. So despite the verification being unsuccessful, the process revealed gaps in our approach and it highlighted opportunities for improvement for future projects. So this led us to develop a heritage assessment requirements document to guide our internal heritage team on consultant requirements for future projects pursuing an IS rating. As the client, we do look for opportunities, and we saw the opportunity and value in strengthening our internal processes to align with IS requirements early, saving time, reducing costs and improving outcomes, whilst also better supporting our consultants and contractors by ensuring in the early phases of the project, it's already set up for IS rating success. Next, please, Amelia. And finally, I just wanted to share some key learnings. So the IS rating tool has provided us assurance that Water Corp project teams are already driving some great sustainability outcomes on our infrastructure projects. But it's also highlighted areas for uplift with the backing of an industry best practice framework. We found that our hybrid delivery model, where we led some of the credits ourselves and had the consultants lead the others, worked really well for us on this project, and it's something we are now using on other projects. This experience gave us the confidence to take a more active role as the asset owners in driving sustainability ratings, and we now provide specialist support to our internal project teams undertaking ratings on other projects. But more so, the rating scheme has really challenged us to think more broadly as an organisation about how we do business. So as an example, it highlighted the need for us to engage more directly with our supply chains, which led us to hold our first ever Water Corporation Supplier Showcase event in September last year. So we had 8 suppliers present their sustainable products to key decision makers across planning, engineering, project management and procurement. So overall, we have found that our hands-on approach to the IS Essentials and a willingness to understand the rating schemes and challenge our business as usual is changing the way that we do business, with the IS framework guiding us on this journey. At a project level, the IS Essentials rating scheme has enabled us to systematically benchmark sustainability performance across key impact areas, facilitated data-driven decision-making, and provided us with a structured way to integrate and embed sustainability throughout the project planning and delivery. Next slide, please, Amelia. Yeah, and that's it. So thank you all for listening to my presentation.
And thank you so much for sharing, Anita. Really, really appreciate it. It's a fantastic, yeah, you can see lots of positive responses. It's a really great example of, yeah, if you guys going with the Essentials pilot project and not only achieving outcomes for this specific project, but also changing your processes and establishing suppliers that will have an impact on future projects. And that's what we really love to hear about, the impact of the tool. So well done, and thank you so much for sharing again.
No worries, thank you.
So with our next project, it might have actually been also featured in a session with an energy focus, because as you will hear, it is a great example of connected infrastructure. So basically, it looks at infrastructure services as a system where the components work in an integrated way. So very similar to what happens in nature. So very happy to have Jared McInnes from Zinfra talk to us today, and yeah, hear more about the Malabar biomethane injection plant. Over to you, Jared.
Thanks, Monique. And thanks for everyone for having me at this event today. I'll get you to jump to the next slide there, please. So the Malabar biomethane injection project. Look, I come from a Jemena and Zinfra where we predominantly focus in the gas. Jemena is transports and has a number of gas transporting across New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland. But the theme of this project is it's a demonstration of what's involved in the energy transition and really highlights the circular economy. So it's great that I get this opportunity to bring it into water because we talk to biomethane and a lot of the stakeholders and partnerships that will exist in the future. So we'll go next slide. Thank you. So we'll cover today just a few brief ones that I'll give you an idea of what the Malabar project is and where it is today. We'll talk through some of the biomethane stakeholders and the partnerships that exist there. We'll go through some of the design and delivery collaboration opportunities, and then I'll give you a feedback on where our IS Essentials kind of supported and fitted with the holistic delivery of the project. Then we can wrap up with the takeaways that we had on the project as well. So I'll go to the next slide. Thanks. So the Malabar Biomethane Project, it's a biomethane upgrader located at the Malabar Sydney Water Resource Recovery Facility in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. So it was selected as our preferred site because the catchment area for this is about 1.86 million people, and yeah, one of the largest. I think it's at 68,000 hectares across that southern region of New South Wales. A significant amount of solid waste coming into the anaerobic digesters. They're producing a stable supply of biogas. That biogas is being used by Sydney Water prior to the project for their cogens and operations in the facilities, although excess of that was being flared through their waste gas burners. So we had a partnership with Sydney Water in delivering the project, and then we also were sponsored by ARENA, the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, as part of a knowledge sharing initiative on the project. And the project today continues to be a demonstration of, I guess, the circular economy. And I think I have taken the ISC through once before on a tour of the facility, and it's other stakeholders have also shared a chance to demonstrate what biomethane is in Australia. So this is, I'll go to the next slide, thank you. So biomethane refers to a renewable gas, which renewable gas is I guess, a short life cycle gas. It means that it's a gas that is produces a carbon dioxide that's biogenic, means that it is created and consumed within the life cycle of something similar to ours, and it therefore offsets the fossil fuels being required to create CO2. So biomethane, the way that it's produced, so out of the anaerobic digesters, I don't think I need to explain that to the water industry, but anaerobic digesters is producing a biogas. In our scenario, we have a biogas about 60-40 methane CO2 and other contaminants in there, H2S and siloxanes and VOCs. That's being used by Sydney Water, as I said before, as part of a cogen electricity on site, and the rest of that was flared off as a waste product. So Malabar has stepped in there as part of what's an upgrading process. That upgrading's focus is to, I guess, remove, to dry the gas, remove the contaminants, pressurize it up to a network pressure, and then we also remove those CO2s through a membrane process. Finally, we get left with a product that's essentially the equivalent of a natural gas. It meets the Australian gas standards, and we're able to inject it into the network where it just blends with our natural gas naturally and allows customers to utilise a substitute product without requiring an upgrade to their Type B or Type A appliances. So part of that, we also were able to generate and boost off with the green power initiatives, I guess the equivalent of an LGCs of electricities, but with New South Wales is able to identify that what a renewable gas is, and we've been the pilot project with green power and delivering that as well. So being biomethane, it's a small portion of what exists in part of the circular economy. So I'll go to the next slide. Thank you. That circular economy means that biomethane is not the only product that you can get out of this process, and we already use a significant other amount of those. But the key to this being a success in the Australian industry and available for our customers is that we're harnessing as much of those partnerships as we can. So, the biosolids and digest states are also relevant for our agricultural partnerships, where wastewater may not be our prominent choice for the anaerobic digester. We may choose to take feedstocks from other areas as well. The biogenic CO2, although it's typically, it isn't really available to be used into a food and beverage substitute at the moment. Places like New Zealand, their pilot project has chosen to use the CO2 as an injection into a greenhouse and providing a further circular economy and sustainability there. Within the anaerobic digestion process as well, we have the compressor. We produce significant amount of heat. So there's opportunities there that you're able to use those heat back into the process as a recycled energy, also utilising parasitic electricity for the plant as well. So sharing those kind of efficiencies in there create the opportunity across those partnerships as well. And then again, the shared pre-treatment, a number of contaminants that exist inside our biogas are just as harmful to cogen electricity as they are and siloxanes as well, just as harmful to other assets that are used in these processes. So, rather than relying on an independent removal at the biomethane only, a shared pre-treatment may optimise that process for both parties. And then finally, we look at the gas where you can kind of assist in that energy transition. As a cogen electricity generated may provide the instantaneous requirements for a network. However, those molecules that we see in methane being available and a storage is a great opportunity and allows for a diverse energy market going forward. So I'll go through to the next slide where I kind of share that we didn't get to harness all of these efficiencies on our project, but these are kind of lessons learned as the biomethane takes off. We're offering these, we recommend these advices that, where the biomethane upgrader exists in Europe, it's not there as as a standalone to substitute the natural gas. It's there to, take advantage of all those other partnerships. So centralize that upgrader inside as part of the anaerobic digester process. Use those heat energies as part of your recovery process as well. Optimize your shared pre-treatment. We use a significant amount of activated carbon to remove the H2S from their Sydney Water's also required to remove parts of that for their own process. That whole cycle there could be optimized into one piece of equipment and extend the operating life of other assets on the facility. We do, taking gas out of an anaerobic digester, you are at a low pressure. So where we have our facility, we offer for those that have seen it, it's a green bubble that offers a buffer storage. And it kind of creates, I guess, a stable production for us later on. That could be easily substituted with the level control gauges on the anaerobic digester if the systems are integrated. That also creates a lot of our operational efficiencies that you need to have. I mean, working on a low pressure gas system is quite challenging, setting multiple set points between the anaerobic digester, waste gas burners, cogens, and the upgrader. So as much as you can integrate that, you can also kind of create the efficiencies that those are all optimized to the best availability and reducing any of the waste that happens in that, or losing biogas or biomethane potential. Go to the next slide. Thank you. Been sitting still too long. So I guess where we started to collaborate on the project with the ISC's as-built program was it's a holistic approach. There's no point in building what we claim is a renewable gas product when you're not building and constructing the sustainability. So we joined, I'll go to the next slide, thank you. We joined the IS Essentials program, fortunately a bit late in our process. So 2 weeks after we'd mobilised the site and started constructing, we realised the potential of this, as it's not common in the energy area at the moment when we enrolled. So again, there was a lot of opportunities that kind of missed in our early stages, and what could have happened if IS design was, made available as well. But it constrained us as part of our deliveries. We'd had a lot of our construction licenses, commercial agreements, and detailed designs hadn't incorporated what we intended for a sustainable management plan to the best of what could have been delivered on the project. However, it didn't stop the contractors, as I said, a demonstration project, and understanding that we are, the intention and the outcomes of this project is to be sustainable. A lot of those initiatives fell into place as required. Unfortunately, the upgrader package had all been procured, and due to the technology really being out of Europe at the moment, we were also at the mercy of a European importing, and we didn't have as much of the manufacturing available at the early stage. So the big focus of our IS Essentials was around our civil constructions. The contractors that we had also saw opportunities in creating the efficiencies of using optimizing their labour and resources on site, and choosing to select the cost saving construction methodologies such as in situ pouring of board piers, and choosing the being in Sydney as well, we had available energy efficient or low emission products available. So they were quite easily implemented into our delivery. And also within the facility, our cogen electricity was also available for use as well. So we were able to claim in a renewable renewable electricity as part of our construction. We continue to purchase the LGCs as part of the biomethane operation as well going forward. So that all equated to, in the end of the project, we ended up with being the IS Essentials pilot as a bronze rating. We'd also became New South Wales pioneers as well, and the first energy project to attain it with ISC. Our results were about a 45% capital and operating emissions was reduced. And the materials, we achieved about 20% reduction in the emissions resulting from alternative materials. And then those sustainable construction practices as well utilise recycled materials where we could, including backfills of pipeline areas. So I go to my next slide, thank you. So my takeaways, I guess, from finishing this, I mean, sustainability and circular economy is holistic when we talk about a biomethane industry or any renewable gas industry as well. So the sustainability needs to start early. We're also developing that biomethane and renewable gas industry as in Australia. And these are clear objectives that we need to understand to ensure that we can have and manufacture the equipment and have it readily operating in Australia. So it needs to have a suitable supply chain to make that happen. And we continue to grow that with the Malabar as a demonstration project. But yeah, also use those partnerships to unlock those other efficiencies. As I showed in there, there's plenty of other commodities that happen in a circular economy, and making the most out of all of those across those partnerships is key to getting the most out of your a sustainable project. My final one is that it's just more than one industry, as we're a gas transport company with Jemena and Focus there as well. We're not the only ones that are focusing in this as well. There's going to be an uptake across all industries as well, from, we hope, the water and waste production, as well as the agricultural feedstock as well. So I guess that means that there's going to have to be a collaboration as we kind of share knowledge. What's important to a gas industry isn't always as important to the water industry, but there is a way that we can compromise and share knowledge between each others to make sure that we get the best opportunities going forward. So I think there is a lot of growth in where we talk about renewable gases, and I'm sure it's something that we'll all be following going forward. I'll go to the next slide, thanks, and just share that the ISC and more information on the Malabar project and our commitment there is all published in a case study. I really hope people get an opportunity to read that, and also provide some feedback to us on, any takeaways. Nick, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Jared. Well, first of all, thank you for bringing this technology to Australia. Hopefully there'll be a lot of uptake elsewhere, and hopefully some people on this call are inspired. Also, thank you so much for sharing your experience with the IS Essentials tools and the learnings. I guess another example of we're going through the process you've learned along the way, and that'll probably set you up for even better outcomes in the future projects. So well done. And the team at Vinfra and Jemena are also very, very generous with their time when it comes to site tours. So if you're interested, I'm sure you can reach out to Jared and arrange something. So yeah, in terms of the case studies for both of our projects, we do have written up case studies that are available to you. If you signed up for this webinar, you'll get an email with a survey, and that will also include the links to the case studies if you want to look at them in a little more detail. We've got a few minutes left for questions and answers. So I can see some in the Q&A section. The first ones are for Anita. If you want to come on. Anita, the first one is, what is the water quality status of the groundwater?
Yeah, so we know that because we need to use calcite in the water treatment process, that's used to raise the pH of the water. So that would mean that the water that we're extracting from the bore was quite acidic. And so the calcite is basically used to increase the pH and neutralize that water. And whilst I'm not exactly sure of the salinity of the water, because it's near a coastal area, you could pretty much assume that it would be quite saline as well. And so we'd have to sort of look at that through the water treatment process. In terms of question 2, were there design challenges in the treatment process that triggered innovation? I think that if you think about, we had to, as part of the water treatment process, we had to be using calcite to neutralize that water. And so through that sort of design and speaking to the operators, we were looking at innovative ways to how we can, you know, make it easier for the operators in terms of, you know, increasing that hopper size and making sure that instead of them having to go there fortnightly for maintenance, we're now going monthly. So I guess through that process and talking to the operators that are already there operating the asset, and getting them to sort of inform us of how we can make, you know, their job easier, there was some innovation in that, because then we've now increased the hopper size and reduced the frequency of travel and emissions and increased safety with that. The last question, which is, why did the project not target environmental credits, considering its environmental impact? So for the IS Essentials rating scheme, what happens is, depending on the capital value of a project, you'll have certain credits screened in and screened out. So because our project was at the time around 23 million, there were certain credits, I think we had about 10 credits screened out. So based on the materiality assessment questions, the Enviro credits were actually quite low materiality. So whilst we were, you know, clearing areas in terms of noise, vibration and whatnot, and the distance to sensitive receptors, that wasn't a very high material topic. We did look at the ecological credit, and that was another credit that we did actually go through for our design verification. I didn't have a lot of, I did have that slide in there, but I removed it just for time purposes. But essentially for the ecological credit, we were clearing, you know, pristine native ecosystem, because we needed to move these bores further out from the community. And with that, we were looking at, you know, how we can do offsets. We had some challenges with that, because where this project is located on the Dampier Peninsula, there actually isn't a lot of area in terms of that has been previously disturbed. So the areas that are currently disturbed, they have infrastructure that still exists today. So when we're going through that process, we actually were talking to Main Roads, Western Australia, Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, the Jardigan Aboriginal Corporation, and we're trying to talk to all these different stakeholders to see if we can work with them to find a local offset, a local project-based offset, but we weren't able to. So it was a credit that we did go for, the ecological protection enhancement, but unfortunately we weren't able to land on an offset as of yet. So we didn't get that one recognised in our design rating.
Thank you. I'll go in the order of how the questions came in. This one I think is for Jared. Is the wastewater residential only, or a combination of residential and industrial?
Okay, that was kind of outside. It's the wastewater treatment wasn't changed from Sydney Water, so it did come through mostly their network system, which goes all the way out to the Campbellfield area. But I guess that starts to evolve into the next kind of iteration. What happens with these feedstocks is that it's where you go into a FOGO system, which means that we're actually adding other nutrients into those anaerobic digesters to promote further growth of biomethane. No, the Malabar project does not endorse any, or does not currently participate in a FOGO feedstock, but similar projects like I guess the comparable one to that would be what First Gas has done in New Zealand, where they have a kind of an equivalent FOGO coming out of Auckland down to their facility in Rapora, is essentially using that system, but doesn't take into account a wastewater system integrated into it. So I don't know if they've fully answered the question there, but again, the feedstock for wastewater was provided by Sydney Water.
Thank you. We've got a question on was local gas to electricity conversion, in brackets with export to the electricity grid, considered as an alternative to biomethane injection, especially given the broader trend of electrification and the move away from direct residential gas consumption?
Look, that's my question again. Look, yeah, we did, as we developed the biomethane upgrader project, Sydney Water was also developing an upgrade to their cogen systems as well. So there was enough biogas at that facility to to facilitate both at this stage here. But it does come down to that question of when do we use or focus on providing electricity, and where we use gas existing as an energy. It's not that base load power supply. When you're looking at those lower end base loads and sacrificing the harm that happens to cogens due to the contaminants and operational use of there, is it not better to have a storage mechanism that can go into networks and offset and store energy in molecules form? So there continues to be that ongoing debate of molecules versus electrons. And I guess in this project here, we were able and we continue to look at the optimization of when Sydney Water wants to produce electricity, whether it's a high demand on the dollar value, or whether it's better to send gas into the network and store it. Fortunately, there's a lot of customers out there that don't have the opportunity to transition as easily. They are not our residentials, they are the commercial glass and bricks and all these infrastructure that exists. And for them to electrify, it's not a simple solution.
Thank you. Kerry, I think the next one might be for you. Considering the non-verification of the heritage credit, is that not a gap in the IS rating process? The IS rating should focus more on outcomes than process, because that was a significant outcome regarding sustainability commitment for the project from a heritage perspective.
Great, thanks. Great question. And I think in part it was kind of answered a little during the presentation in terms of improving outcomes. And but yeah, it's always the use of the Barra Charter principles is around best practice and the quality of outcomes, and certainly recommended by our heritage specialists who are involved in reviewing the credit. And as was said during the session, that has allowed Water Corp to improve and its own processes and guidance around what needs to be included in heritage assessments. Obviously, as with all of our credits, we take feedback on the use of them by projects, and sometimes, if we get see that we think there's too much process in some areas, and particularly the work that's been done at the moment with version 2.1 updates and review, then we aim to focus on outcomes and the quality of those outcomes. Thanks, Monique, and thanks, Hope, for your question.
Thank you. A question for Jared. For this type of project that contains a lot of process infrastructure that can be quite complex and with limited supply chain sources, where did you find the most constraints in trying to identify areas of impact for sustainability outcomes, in brackets, thinking particularly of resource materials related credits?
So yeah, obviously the process side of it, we were at the mercy of what exists at Europe at the moment. So biomethane has been over in Europe for 30 years. It's growing as well throughout the United States as well, with and other areas are all picking up in that technology. So the challenge of integrating that into and having a biogas compressor and all of that existing in the Australian market, we lost a lot of our opportunities to recover those material credits there. Where it does start to change, though, is that it already existed for us. I mean, there's a lot of challenge. I'm not sure if those who have had the pleasure of importing stuff over from Europe before, but the Australian AS3000 electricity is quite specific to us and makes it difficult for us to do an electrical installation in Australia. So we'd already committed a number of our components to Australia. We just said that it's unfeasible to have that fitted out in Europe and have it brought into Australia. So a number of components have been fabricated into Australia. It was already a part of our agenda and we didn't record those materials. But there is probably other efficiencies in terms of the material selection while doing it as well. You know, there's a selection of stainless steel in a low pressure environment could easily be substituted with a polyethylene piping, which, you know, as much as a fabrication of it, but also the installation is a lot more at ease on those as well. I can't really add too much more. I mean, this is where it is going to change for us in the biomethane as we do get a more uptake and, you know, endorsements of renewable gas. We will see the biogas products become available and a industry take up here. We have started to see it grow. We are working with our suppliers to encourage them to work with an Australian market and work out that. Unfortunately, with one biomethane upgrader in Australia and one biomethane upgrader in New Zealand, it's not the enticing market compared to what exists with 1,000 biomethane upgraders across Europe. So,
right. The next one is, what is the project NPV? I'm not sure if that's the net present value as a ratio to carbon abatement over life. Not sure if you've got that ready, Jared.
No, I don't have that, but look, I can share with you. There is I'm pretty confident that the ARENA, so obviously this is an ARENA delivered project as well. There's a lot of knowledge sharing on there, and I think we have started to capture a lot of the those details, the up life and operating life of the asset, are detailed in the commissioning deliverables. So, Monique, I'm not sure if the survey has an opportunity to share with them that knowledge link. Otherwise, I can update the slide to link everyone to ARENA's notice for us.
We can definitely share that, yeah.
The other one is obviously the ARENA's bioenergy roadmap as well is quite consistent. I see there's another question in there about the dollar of gigajoules. That's obviously I can't share the customer's details there, but I can advise that the dollar dollar gigajoule values of biogas and biomethane in those roadmaps are pretty consistent with where we are with the industry as well.
Yeah, was that in response to Mark's question?
Yeah, it didn't come into the Q&A. I found it in the chat. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. A similar vein, I think, is the process commercially viable without credits, and how does its cost profile compare to conventional methods? Has scalability been validated? Does it align with circular economy principles without placing upward pressure on the cost to customer?
I guess the challenge with it at the moment is our facility at 95 TJs a day. It needs to have a substantial growth in a biomethane market before you kind of see those efficiencies. Those efficiencies will start to change with a more production, but it just can't compete with what you see in the natural gas, where we have pipelines that are doing the equivalent of 110 TJs a day compared to a 95 a year facility. So, but it acts as a microgrid. I mean, New South Wales doesn't produce any gas at the moment. It's all transported interstate. So the movement of those molecules to being available in the eastern suburbs of New South Wales and not having those transport costs as well is another layer of, I guess, efficiencies then sustainability that we see. And as you start to see, you know, those remote areas grow, I mean, the New Zealand facility as well will offset one of their lateral pipelines because of the size that community uses as well. So it's just as much the immediate customers, but the transport as well. We will see the efficiencies in there with a network of biomethane producers.
Thank you.
I think the only other one with that as well is that you can very much compare it to what's happened in Europe as well, and where they've been put into pressure of requiring to have a substitute to the geopolitical requirements is more than the energy requirements, but that's been a real prompt in their biomethane growth as well for protection.
Oh, and we've got one more for Anita on the Jaragin project. Were there other options beside a non-local calcite for water treatment? Was the operational transport of that material calculated as part of the sustainability process? We've got some real experts on this call.
Yeah, sorry, I can't comment on whether or not there was other treatment options looked at. That would probably be a question for the design manager. But in terms of the emissions, yes, they were calculated because we went for the ENE1 credit, which looks at your greenhouse gas emissions and energy use. So we did calculate that, and that's why we also looked at opportunities to reduce those emissions through reducing the frequency of travel, given how remote this project is and the distance required for the operator to travel.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for your presentations. Thank you for everyone for tuning in and asking your questions. Like I said, please watch out for this, the survey that we'll send out. It will include links to the case studies and to the further information that Jared mentioned. And we hope you took some inspiration from that, and we look forward to hearing more about the build phase as well for the first project. So yeah, and with that, just have a great rest of your day.